Hi everyone, welcome to the Saturday's episode of Shagalinko TV. It's good to have you here and everyone who will be joining us as the program progresses. My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Kabari and thanks for joining us. Like I always say, you have choices, you have other channels to listen to or watch, but you are always committed here and we don't take it for granted. Thanks to everyone who's been joining us every time we come on air, every Tuesdays and Saturdays, 2 p.m. West African time. Thanks for joining us. Anyway, as more people join, this is to say that we're looking at energy transition. How can we achieve renewable energy and energy efficiency? Also to say that this episode is supported by PAGJA for being there. My guest today, all the way from Accra, Ghana, is Dr. Samuel Ogallah. He's the senior climate specialist for Africa, Solidaridad Network, Accra, Ghana. I needed to take that name slowly. When I first saw that name, so many things came on my mind, and I needed to respect myself and took out time to really call out that name right, especially when you do program here on Shagalinko, that we have guests from all across the world, from Philippines, from Pakistan and everywhere. You need to pronounce their names and organizational names correctly. But anyway, we'll be looking at that today and we're also enjoying you. The comment section is there. Please drop your comments. What do you think about renewable energy? How can we transit, from what we used to know as a norm to energy transition that people are beginning to look at now? I wouldn't want to let the cat out of the bag because my guests will be doing a whole lot about that. But this is also to say that we're transmitting or streaming live from 3 destinations. So we're streaming live on Shagalinko TV YouTube page. We're streaming live from Shagalinko TV Facebook page and my personal page, Ambassador Emmanuel Kabari. If you just joined us, I'd enjoy you to please share the video in your own space so that other people can watch. We have a great personality in the house today as usual. And I'd like you all to drop your comments. It will be popping up on the screen and we'll be reading them. If you also want to send it via SMS or WhatsApp, the number is +234 3860 is the number to send in your text or WhatsApp through that number, and we'll be reading it as the program goes on. Anyway, let me bring in my guest and then we'll talk more about energy transition and what he thinks about renewable energy. Hello, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, Ambassador Emmanuel Kabari. Thanks for having me on your show, and also thanks to our listeners across the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, who is Dr. Sam Ogallah, and what viewers all across the globe know about you before we go on to talk about energy transition?
Thank you. I'm Sam Ogallah, currently working with Solidaridad as a senior climate specialist for Africa and also country technical lead. Prior to joining Solidaridad, I've also worked in different organizations and institutions across 45 countries, especially in Africa, when I worked for PAGJA as head of programs, where I rose to the rank of acting secretary general before I joined Solidaridad. So basically my interest is on development and climate change. And in Solidaridad, we also came on these 2 particular issues. In Solidaridad, you rightly called the name, don't bite your tongue. You may want to know what we do and how we do it. We are working in 5 continents across the globe and in 8 regional expertise centers. Solidaridad has been in existence for over 50 years now. We're working with producers, smallholder farmers across 13 commodities across the globe to make supply chains sustainable and such that a way that whatsoever we produce and we consume, we respect the planet and also the future generation. We also do it in balance with nature. And we facilitate discussions with our producers on issues of access to finance, access to credit, access to input to make their work and their agricultural practices and the mining sector really sustainable. So that's just a brief about me. And I see also the climate component of Solidaridad work for Africa. Currently housed with Solidaridad West Africa, which has its regional office in Accra, Ghana. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Sam, for that great introduction. I'd also like you to tell us in a layman's understanding, there's so much hashtag energy transition going on and what has changed, renewable energy, so much is happening, especially with the fact that the COVID has taught countries that they need to look inward. They need to also begin to diversify. They need to also begin to look at ways of making the climate cleaner, and the environment cleaner and all that. First of all, what would you say is energy transition before we even come to renewable energy, in your words?
Thank you so much, Ambassador Gabari. In a simple terms, I think for me to even respond to your question, let me also rephrase it in this form. Energy transition for who? Why? How? When? And where? What are we transiting from? So that brings us to a simple definition of what we mean by energy transition. It means there is something that is existing and we're trying to move away from what exists to another. So that process of movement from one phase to another is what we call a transition. And when you bring it down to in relation to energy, it then means that there is a certain energy or a kind of energy that has been in existence, and we want to move away or transition to another one, maybe that is new or is been there but we didn't explore it. So that movement from one form of energy to another form of energy is what we refer to as energy transition. Thank you.
I'm getting messages already, but I'll come back and ask you to talk about renewable energy, and then we'll take it from there. But let me quickly read these messages so that we could just move on. I got this one here from Karim J. Jackson. I hope it will come up on the screen soon. It says, Karim Jackson from California, USA, but in Asia, watching from the Philippines island. Thank you so much, Karim. And this one is from Abu Enejo Stephen. Dr. Sam, if you can see this, can you read it for us?
Yes, this is from Abu Enejo Stephen. Say, wow, nice catching up with Dr. Ogallah on this Saturday edition. Thanks for bringing this opportunity to us, Ambassador J. Gabari, I suppose. Thank you.
And we'll take one more, then we'll go on and talk. This one here, if you can also see it, do read it for us. It's from Ndala Dauda. I'm trying to put it on the screen. Yeah, so yeah, it is.
Okay. Ndala Dauda is in good afternoon, Dr. Sam Ogallah. Nice to see you once again. And I hope to learn from this important topic of discussion, which has the potential to improve the African economy. Thank you, Dauda.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all. So keep your messages coming. Dr. Sam will be responding to them, either your comments, your questions. Comment section is there. Please use it. And also, please share the video right now so that everyone in your network can also watch and benefit from what Dr. Sam will be saying. So, Dr. Sam, let's look at renewable energy. You've laid the background for us, saying transiting or transition to what, from where, and all that. And that was a $1 million question. So, what is renewable energy?
Thank you, Ambassador Gabari. Renewable energy, as the name implies, is something that is renewable, that is inexhaustive. So you can do it, it's renewal, it doesn't go into exhaustion. You don't completely exhaust it, whatsoever source that could be. So when we're talking about renewable energy, we're talking about energy source that we cannot exhaust it. Its sources to provide us the type of energy we're looking at. But I think I would also like us to even look at this, the genesis. Where are we coming from? Why are we even discussing this issue of renewable energy? And for me, it seems too little too late that we are in 2021 discussing renewable energy, when the issue actually came up in 1992. It came to a limelight in 1992 at a conference. We call it the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, which we call the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where the world leaders gathered. And out of the 4 issues that was addressed at that meeting was alternative source of energy that will move us away from fossil fuel. So since 1992, the debate, came up about what is this alternative energy that will replace fossil fuel. And the issue is, what have we been doing since 1992, when the issues came to the global limelight? From the same Earth Summit, we have the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which was established. And it came into effect in 1994. All these bodies and institutions were discussing issues relating to energy, issues relating to climate, issues relating to environment and development. And since 1994 to date, or 1992 to date, what has happened? Why are we talking about renewable energy at this point? If we had done something serious, is it that we just wake up and realize all of a sudden, because we are in a climate crisis, that there is need to switch to renewable energy? Or is it because the impact of climate change is now hitting us harder than before? So these are questions we need to ask ourselves. Have we been sleeping since 1992, when the issues of renewable energy, alternative energy, started gaining traction at the international global discourse? So here we are, and we are now in between the rock and the hard place in terms of energy issue. And I will also say that it is energy crisis as far as I'm concerned. Yesterday, the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administrations, NOAA, told us, they released a report yesterday, that the world has crossed the 417.64 parts per million in terms of carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere, which they classified it as very scary. And scientists have said this over with the IPCC report and all over. So now we are waking up again from our slumber and talking about renewable energy. And that is why I said it might be too little too late, but better late than never. When you look at the aggregate nationally determined contribution to the Paris Agreement that were submitted by all the member states, over 190 countries. Prior to Paris Agreement, we call it the INDC, and now is the NDC, though it's currently being reviewed to raise ambitions. So because countries are currently submitting their NDCs, I wouldn't talk much on that, but for the NDCs that have already been submitted, the aggregate NDCs submitted, if you look at the impact of that, it's taking the world to over 3 degrees centigrade by 2030. And if you look at the major sources and causes of climate change and what has brought us to where we are, and talking about energy transition, is the major contributor is the energy sector. The energy sector is number 1 contributor to climate change, and then followed by the agriculture sector. So we've known this long time, and here we are talking about energy transition. And that is why I said from the onset, energy transition for who? Why? How? When? And where? I think we are moving in a dangerous trajectory in terms of climate, in terms of our environment, in terms of development. And the earlier we take urgent action in the way we address, we generate, and we use our energy, the better for us, the better for the planet. Let me stop there. Maybe I can take more, elicit more questions from you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So in case you just joined us, this is a Saturday's episode of the program, and we're looking at energy transition. This episode is proudly supported by PACJA and MCS DevNet. Okay, and I have my guest, Dr. Samuel Ogallah, all the way from Accra, Ghana, and he's doing justice to this. Drop your comments on the comment section, and please do share the video, do share the link for as many of your friends, colleagues, and family to join us. And Dr. Sam Ogallah will be replying to all of the messages here. Dr. Sam, I was going to also ask you, we know when 2 elephants fight, the grass suffers. What is the place of the rural people, peasant farmers who may not have accessibility to renewable energy? Electricity is on the high side in Nigeria and across a lot of African countries, but we need to keep going forward. Like you said, it's not about dwelling on the problems right now, but moving forward. But let me quickly take a few messages here. And if there are the ones you want to respond to immediately, you could do that. But I really need you to talk to us on what you think rural farmers, people in rural areas can do vis-a-vis also that. This is from Innocent Dekok, and it's from Kenya. And it says, Kenya submitted her updated NDCs last year with a more ambitious abatement target of 32% in emission. I think that message came twice. There's another one Isaac was trying to send. Okay, I've seen it here. Isaac's Innocent's first message says, thank you. This is to Dr. Ogallah. What is your take on energy efficiency vis-a-vis embracing renewable energy systems? What do you have to say about this, sir?
Okay, thank you. Before Ambassador Emmanuel, before I come back to respond to your question, let me just take that which Innocent have just asked, and then also thanks to our colleagues, our friends who send the comments from Kenya. Yes, Kenya is very ambitious, and I think their updated NDC is commendable. Now, back to Innocent question. What is the take on energy efficiency versus embracing renewable energy system? Now, we have no choice at this point. Like I'm saying, we just have to embrace it. It's either we embrace it or we keep roasting together under this current problem we find ourselves. So, and that is what I was trying to say. How, for who, and where. So we have no choice at this point in embracing renewable energy than to take it. And the issue is we need to look at what will it cost for us to switch. And I want to come to that point. Who bears the burden? What are the resources? What do we need to switch? Because if you're talking about embracing, it comes with a lot of things. Do we have the technology? Yes, we can verbally say, okay, we want to embrace. Yeah, we are all embracing. But how does that translate into, like Innocent is saying, our rural farmers or our parents in the village having access to 24 hours of electricity? And let me just also say this, that African Development Bank released a report not quite long and told us that 640 million Africans have no access to clean energy, to electricity. 640 million Africans have no access to energy. And out of that, 600,000, mostly women and girls, die annually from indoor air pollution. And this is also associated with energy. Now, before we even go too far, what are these energy sources we're talking about? I will come back to your question, Ambassador Manuel. We're talking about the sources of energy that we're transiting from. One is the fossil fuel, which we all know. Second is the coal. Some African countries and even globally, even in Europe and even in America, also depends on coal as one of their sources of energy. Another is, for us much, especially on the African continent, is the firewood, what we call fuel wood, where people go to look for charcoal and cut down trees. And you know the importance of tree in carbon sequestration in addressing climate change. But this is also a major source of energy in Africa because people need this energy for cooking, for heating, and for lighting. So these are the sources we are talking about transitioning from into a renewable one. And what are the renewable ones we are talking about transitioning to? We are talking about sources like wind, which is in abundance in Africa. We're talking about sources like solar. We have enough sun across the continent. You go to Niger Republic, you have about 42 degrees centigrade. Go to Burkina Faso, go to the southern part of Africa, go to northern part of Africa. We have so much in abundance, and solar as a source of renewable energy. We also talk of hydro. We also talk about nuclear. We talk of also geothermal. We have the Onkaria in Kenya. We have the largest solar plant in Morocco, the North solar plant in Morocco. And all this are springing up here and there across Africa and across the continent. So this is what we're talking about switching. These are the old ones, the fossil fuel, the dirty energy. We're talking about, okay, let's move to the renewable energy. So embracing this entails a lot of factors. And like you rightly asked, Ambassador Gabari, how do our parents, our old age people in the rural community access this? So who is bearing the cost? Who is doing the technology development? Who is doing the deployment? And who is doing the transfer? We also need to address issues of intellectual property. Do we have the political will? Are there policies on the African continent and globally that support renewable energy, deployment, development, homegrown? What will be the cost? What is the role of the private sector in this transition? What will be the role of the government in this transition? What will be the role of civil society in this transition? So it's a whole lot of issues and factors we need to consider. But we have no choice, not only as Africans, but globally, in embracing renewable energy. We have no choice. There is no other plan B than to embrace it and see how we can maximize from it, especially that we have a lot of potential for renewable energy sources across the continent of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam. I am still worried about. I think it was Innocent that also pointed that out, because a lot of countries have moved, talking about cars that are rechargeable, so much is happening, and Africa is still just tilting and all that. For experts and people like you who are in the forefront of a lot of advocacy, are you not worried that sometimes the government seem not to also be listening to some of the advocacies that is being done? Because these things are not rocket science, a lot of CSOs, organizations, even foreign bodies always give out blueprints. And the strange part of it is that many African countries or government travel abroad for some of these conferences, and they sign agreements saying when they get back to their countries, they will do X, Y, Z, and they don't. So what is the challenge here, Doctor? Why are we not seeing a whole lot of embracing of this technology and the world is moving? You said we have no choice. So why are some of the African countries still lagging behind?
Thank you, Ambassador Emmanuel. I think it's also good we contextualize the question you are asking. And in what context is Africa operating? And I think this is, I would call it a paradox, energy transition at a crossroad. You talk about electric vehicles. Now, remember that even many countries in Africa are discovering oil, the fossil fuel we're talking about. The economy of the African countries are majorly powered by this fossil fuel. So the issues of population growth is here. The issue of job creation is here. The issue of poverty is here. The issue of conflict is here on the African continent. A lot of, issues demanding the attention of the government. They want to create employment. They want to create jobs. And okay, we need this source of energy, the old one that we're using, to create these jobs. So when they go to sign up to some of these international treaties, yeah, signing is very easy. But when you juxtapose that against the reality on the ground, then it's a different ball game completely. So there is no harm in signing. But the reality is that the continent and the leaders are being faced with on the ground real challenge after they've signed those things. Now, the sign, remember, let's just make a reference to the nationally determined contribution in the Paris Agreement that African leaders have also signed up to the Paris Agreement. And part of that, the mitigation component, part of the NDC is how will they going to reduce their emission by 2030. But remember that the NDC is also based on two factors, what we call the conditional and the unconditional factor. The African government and leaders says, we are going to reduce our emission by this percentage domestically without any international support. We call that one the unconditional component of the NDCs. And the second component of the NDC says, we are going to reduce our emission by so percentage based on international support, which is conditional. So when you bring these two things together, the question we should be asking is, for the one that are domestic, how far are they and how fast are the African leaders and the continent moving towards that direction? And the one which is even largely conditional, are they receiving the international support that is required for Africa to leapfrog in its energy transition? So these are some of the realities that goes beyond signing an agreement. And until we come to time with this reality and says we must face this thing heads on, we'll be chasing around the shadow. And like I said, these are not something we cannot do. As long as there is domestic or national commitment, we can assign budgetary allocation to the national budget, mobilize resources internally within the country, and we can see international support coming on board. I tell you, Africa will really move fast and leapfrog in terms of our switch to renewable energy. And that leads me to another point, which I want to say. How do we have a model of how we want to transition? Some people call it just transition. Others say green transition. Others say clean transition, whatsoever name we might be given it. But are we going to transition holistically, 100%? Are we going to be transitioning gradually? Are we going to be looking at energy mix? Okay, let's have this, and then we transit gradually. These are realities and questions we need to attempt and we need to answer. Let me pause here, Ambassador Gabagiri.
Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Sam. So many messages here, but I'll just pop them on the screen so you could read and then respond. So we don't leave out any message. So many of them. I know you've responded to the one from Innocent in Kenya. And there's this one from Wisdom. I don't know if you've replied this, if you've read this. Please read if you can see this. Okay. It's from Wisdom in Ghana.
Wisdom is saying, Wisdom from Accra, Ghana. I've always been wondering what we can use such abundant sunshine in Africa for, beside the solar energy, the panel. We should see abundant sunshine as a blessing. I completely agree with Wisdom that it should be a blessing and not a curse. And we can actually look at it this way, Wisdom and colleagues around the world. Can we even get to a point that the abundant sunshine that Wisdom is talking about, can we harness it and even begin to export it from across Africa? This is something we should be thinking about. Let's have it enough to generate electricity, to generate energy for the continent, and we can even export. This should be a huge blessing to the continent. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a question here for you. So many messages here, but we'll try and just finish all. There's this one here that I wanted you to read. It's from Ofwani Praise. He says, hello, Dr. Sam. Most households in Nigeria are resorting to solar energy and inverters as a result of the poor electric supply. Are there other cheaper sources of generating power aside the two mentioned above? It's from Ofwani Praise in Lagos, Nigeria. What do you have to say, sir?
Thank you, Fanny. I'm very familiar with the energy crisis in Nigeria, and it's not only energy poverty. Yeah, there are other sources beside the solar. Like I mentioned earlier, we have wind. Nigeria has a long coastline along the Atlantic Ocean, over 800 kilometers coastline. You go to we can generate, put wind vanes around there and then harvest from the wind. That is a very long, a huge potential lying there. When you go to Maiduguri, you go to Sokoto, northeastern Nigeria, extreme north and northwestern part of Nigeria. You could, in fact, in Yobe State, you will see that there is a movement of what we call sound dunes, where sounds are moved by winds and they are deposited, at another point, and it's even burying houses there. So that tells you the type of the speed of wind in northern part of Nigeria. So why can't we also generate electricity, generate power from wind from northern part of the country? We also have, hydro. Yeah, we can also generate from that in Nigeria. There is Kenji Dam. There are so many dams all around. We also have, Nigeria at some points were signing an agreement with Russia to go into nuclear energy generation and the rest. Well, don't ask me whether we have all it takes to handle nuclear issues anyway. But these are other sources of renewable energy we can. Geothermal is also there. I mentioned a good example from Kenya. So these are other sources besides solar that Nigeria can actually generate energy from. Thank you.
Okay, some more questions here. If you can see this from Ijehan Sami Prince, please do read and respond.
Sami Prince is saying, good afternoon, doctor. Please, my question is, how will energy transition shape the future, and how can it be effective on the African continent? Okay, thank you, my friend Sami. He's actually sending in this comment from Belgium. Thank you. You are there and then you're listening to what is happening on the continent. Really appreciate that your mind is still back on the continent of Africa. Yeah. For the question you ask, the transition is already shaping the future. In fact, not even the future, it's shaping now. Look at Tesla. US and China in 2020 are now the world leader in renewable energy. They are already shaping how things are moving. So it's not even going to be the future. The future we are talking about starts even for me yesterday, and that is where I talk about why are we even talking about energy transition when the discussion started at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. So the future started yesterday when you talk about renewable energy. Countries are now moving. They are moving very fast. US is moving. China is moving. And we know when you come to carbon emission, US is the highest contributor, and China is following and also highest when you talk about per capita. But these two countries, again, are leading as at last year in terms of deployment of renewable energy. So for now, the future is here with us. We have no choice. Tesla is here. Electric vehicles are here to stay. And, that brings me to the point. What are we going to do with, energy, high carbon dependent equipment and facilities that we have on the African continent? Because very soon we are going to be having stranded assets. By the time the continent embraces electric vehicles and the rest, and solar equipment, what happens to all these Jeep and big vehicles we are buying all over? What happens to the refineries? They become a stranded asset. So as we're talking about renewable energy, we should also be talking about how do we deal with the stranded assets that would litter across the continent. These are also things we need to think about. So for the African continent, the time is now, and we shouldn't make the mistake that brought us to here by the developed world that depend, build their economy on the dirty source of energy. So we should actually, as a continent, leapfrog ours on a clean and renewable sources of energy. Let me just pause there, Ambassador Gabari, and thank you, Sam, for sending in that comment from Belgium.
Okay, there's another one here, and it's from Abu, a second time around. It says, good listening to you, Dr. Sam. Question, sir. For over 5 years of this present administration in Nigeria, we have continued to hear about several energy transition programs on papers without meaningful, traceable, positive impact. Sir, if you are to advise the government of Nigeria on this needed transformation and how to start, what would be what would your advice be? Thanks.
Thank you so much, Stephen. This is a tricky one. Recently, I was also
putting you on the high spot, on the hot spot.
Yeah. Don't worry. Put me on the seat to be an advisor to the Nigerian government on energy transition. That is great. That is a critical one. I listen and also follow online what is happening in Nigeria. And recently, the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Osibanjo, I think launched something. They want to get over 25 million households solar powered in Nigeria. I think that was last month or this month thereabout. I can't quite remember, but just recently the Vice President was, making that statement at a meeting in Abuja. And, like you said, these things are good on papers, and then for the past 5 years, and also these things have been there. I think my simple advice is it is time to put our words into action. Good as they may be on paper, they are not rocket science. Nigeria should look for, private sector. It should be a public-private partnership. If the government can't do it alone, they're partnering with the German government and some private sectors from Western world. They should look for an ally, a willing partner, the private sector, create the enabling environments for private sector to thrive. These policies, let's see, removes, subsidies on renewable energy technologies, and try to bring in people that have the technical know-how. Like I said, they are not rocket science. It's just to get that political will to translate what is on paper into action. And there are several ways we can do that. And one of the easiest way, I think, for the Nigeria government is the public-private partnership, looking for private investors who are ready to invest in these things they put on papers. And what format should that take? What should be the co-financings from the Nigerian government? And, should it be built, own, and transfer? There are different ways we can do this. So for me, I would say they are not rocket science. It is time to translate our paper and our action, our words into action in Nigeria. And so the government can do this. It is not too late that, there's energy crisis and poverty in Nigeria. And Nigerians have had enough of, the paperwork. Now it's time. There are people that are ready to work either as a private sector or through bilateral, processes with the Nigerian government to see how, these things on paper can be translated into reality. And we will go to the villages to get to the rural areas. People can have electricity or access to power 24/7 in Nigeria. It's not rocket science and it's doable. So that would be my advice to government, to reach out to those that have the might to support the government to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sam. So many messages here. So let me quickly take a few of them. This one is from Jata Johnson Ekele, and she says, the conversation is wonderful. It's great watching Dr. Ogallah speak about renewable energy transition. That man is so full of wisdom. Thank you, Shagalinku TV Worldwide. And then a second time around, she says, Dr. Sam, even children that cling to their mothers in the kitchen are affected by this smoke and air pollution. UNICEF said 45% of deaths amongst children under the age of 5 are due to pneumonia caused by inhaling soot or particulate matters from households, air pollution. So sad. We really need to transit to renewable energy fast. Okay, so let me take this one. You will respond. It's a question from Lucky Abeng. It says, sir, what's the role of R&D for effect energy transition NG? What do you have to say, sir?
Thank you so much, Giata, for your comments. And like I said in my intro, African Development Bank in one of its reports says 600,000 people, mostly women and children, are dying annually from indoor air pollution across Africa. This is a serious problem. And we can't afford to lose the future of Africa to indoor air pollution at this rate. Something has to happen very, very fast. And I completely agree with you. Now, Lucky, thank you for your question. The role of research and development is key and, very key to energy transition. And that will bring me to a point where, I talked about energy, how do we want to do this? The how of it. Now, the development, the deployment, the transfer. And I mentioned earlier that we need, most importantly and urgently, homegrown technology. How long are we going to be dependent on external kind of technology, renewable energy? Remember, the cost is there. Remember, all the, by the time you put the custom tax, the subsidy, and the rest, by the time it lands on the shore of the continent of Africa, the cost goes up. So how do we then promote a homegrown technology for renewable energy? And that is where the place of research and development comes in. How much of the Ministry of Science and Technology across the different countries in Africa, what is their annual budget? The research institutions that we have across Africa in different African countries, how much are they funded? Because when we're talking about energy, development, and it comes with research. You can't just sit down and say, okay, I want to bring this. No, things comes together. So every energy system or technology that we talk about is a product of research. And so it is also high time we begin to, allocate resources, budget allocation by the government, and also even research institution into developing this homegrown technology. Because until we are able to, he that calls, for a meeting and dictates the agenda takes the pace. Until Africa, we're beginning to sit down and ask ourselves the critical question, what can we assemble? I was in a meeting in South Africa, in Pretoria, sometimes back by Tshwane University. And I was impressed by young African boys of under 25 years. They came to display a renewable energy, a solar technology that they've, as they were able to put together using local resources in South Africa. And, in the villages household, you can use it to at least to light the room. So I was so impressed that if these young men from the African country, below 25 years of age, can do something, if they are supported, then Africa can do more. Already, we also have research and development that have been, done in other countries. So why not also leapfrog on that? Copy and paste and domesticate and make sure it works for us. So the place of research and development is key if we must move fast. And we can also have a hybrid while we are getting from the north or other suppliers that are not on the continent of Africa. We can have a mix. Let's also have a homegrown technology that is renewable based on the research that has taken place that's given us this particular technology. So it is key. Thank you, Lucky.
Okay, Jetta again came with this, and Dr. Sam. It says, great session, Dr. Sam. My concern has always been with the people because, like Abu Stephen highlighted, our government is known for paper talks. Question, okay, it's gone off. Okay,
Uh,
question. What is the role of the community in this transition? Are there things we're supposed to do that we're not doing? What is the cheapest form of renewable energy that the people can transit to? Remember, I asked you that when I said when two elephants fight, the grass suffers, because the citizens bear the grunt. And then aside being citizens, those in the rural areas are, the major hit and vulnerable. So, Jetta, thank you for bringing this up again. So, Dr. Sam, what will be your response to this?
Thank you so much, Jetta. Again, the role and the place of the community people in the whole equation. Well, they are at the bottom end and most at times at the receiving end. So what I will say is they shouldn't sit down there and look helpless. It's time to cry out. The community people elected their officials to represent them in the states or houses of assembly, in the National Assembly, into elective positions. And I guess one of the promises is that we're going to make your life better. So it's time for community people to hold these people accountable. It is not after 4 years or 5 years when they are coming back to look for your vote for the community people before you begin to say, oh, we have no power, no electricity in our community. We don't even have access to solar energy. And, and all manner of stories. It is time to hold the people we elect across the continent of Africa accountable. They owe us the responsibility to provide this. They are responsible for budgetary approval when the executive submits such. They should be able to ask the executive when they bring the budget, where is the element of renewable energies? How is this budget addressing the challenge of renewable energy in rural communities? I can't go back to my community to face them if this budget is passed and my community will still remain after 4 years without access to electricity or clean energy. So the community people should cry out aloud. Beside also holding their elective representative accountable, there's also still have a role to play in the transitioning. We have the private sector who are coming up and civil society organizations with different initiatives, such as like briquette, waste to energy conversion. These are resources that we have within the communities, within the localities. And so if the community people embrace these other sources of energy, okay, how do we make energy from the waste we generate? Across the continent, we see a lot of waste. How do we generate energy? How do we make briquette, even from the agricultural waste or from all manner of waste? We want civil society can train the community people on this, and also the private sector. It creates a lot of job along the value chain at the community level. And if the community people, embrace such things and begin to use this kind of energy source, it also reduces the pressure on the forest. We have less problem with deforestation, and we have also less problem with climate change. So community people has a role to play on this. And also where resources permit, community people can also go into cooperatives. If you can't afford some of these technologies as individual, there are cooperatives. The cooperatives can take loan, they can access loan from banks, from other institutions or financial institutions, and gradually begin to procure and pay on the beneficiary pay instrumentally as a member of the cooperative in the community. And then you get these facilities, this equipment at the community, at least the one you can use for lighting and probably cooking. we may not be able to do the mega one. I saw one in India when I was there, used massive to cook, even for mass gathering and the rest. But we may not afford that at the community level. So these are things that community people can do, and the role they can play in assessing and switching and transitioning to renewable energy. The impact might be little, you will see it, but it has a huge significance on the climate and the environment. If what community A does that, community B does that, C, it becomes cumulative and the impact will be huge. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Some more messages are coming, although we'll be wrapping up shortly. But this one is coming from Ignatius eBay. It says, hello. Ignatius is one of our very regular viewer, and also works with OPPO. OPPO has supported us a couple of times with EarPod and a few things for our viewers a couple of times. So thank you, Mr. Ignatius eBay from OPPO as well. It's good to know that you're joining us on this show. Okay, I want you to respond to this as we begin to wrap up. Ijehan Sami Prince, a second time or third time around, this is his message. So Dr. Sam, can you read this and respond? It might just be our last message for today. So many messages are here. Maybe we might need to come and do a part 2, but please read this and respond finally.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Sam, for your question. It says, I think the government is not doing the needful by investing in renewable energy, and especially our research institution. And Dr. Sam, I couldn't agree more with you on this. A lot needs to be done, and we need to put our governments on their toes. It's no longer business as usual, and so we need to honestly do something unusual. Something needs to happen urgently and quickly in terms of transitioning. So it's great. We let them know, yes, you might be doing, but your good is not best enough, and more is requested. The populace are demanding for more, and it's endless. I couldn't agree with you. Our research are underfunded across the continent. Look, for a good case study, we have COVID that's even complicated the whole issue. The little resources the governments maybe might want to try to deploy into the issues we are discussing is now shifted to COVID. So you look at all these vagaries of challenges on the continent, and it's also slowing down the pace at which the continent is going to transition into a renewable energy. A lot needs to be done. Is because we've not invested enough in our health sector and in our research, that up till now we cannot boast of a single vaccine from Africa to address COVID. And we're going to be spending a lot for that. So the money that is even meant to address the issues of renewable energy, part of it may likely go into purchasing of a COVID vaccine. So I think before it turns around and hit us even much harder, investment in renewable energy sector, investment in research into the renewable energy technologies, homegrown, as I would say, is key. In the time to do it, I said it was yesterday because it's getting a little bit late, but we still have another chance, which is today. And government, not only government, all of us have a role to play. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to go now. So many messages, but then what would be your last word of advice? I know, God willing, we'll still bring you back a second time to address a whole lot of issues that have been raised and so many other things we couldn't talk about. But what would be your last word of advice in the next 30 seconds?
Thank you so much, Ambassador Gabari. I would say my last word is everyone has a role to play in energy transition. It begins with you, it begins with me. The journey should have started yesterday. We are late already, but today is another chance to begin the journey in the transition to renewable energy. The government has a role, individuals have a role, the private sector have a role, civil society have a role, the communities have a role. Every one of us have a role to play. So the blame game will not help us. Neither is even solving the problem with the speed which we want to do. But the good news is we have huge potential for renewable energy on the continent of Africa. And the time to act and convert those potentials into what it ought to be and even make it an income generating component for the continent so that we can export renewable energy from the continent to other parts of the world that even have the kind of sunshine we have and the vast space that we have. The time for that is now, and everyone has a role to play. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sam. I'll quickly just read a few messages as I wrap up now. This one is from Ostina Ogechi, and it says, nice listening to you, Dr. Sam Ogallah, man of the moment. Thank you, Ostina. And this one is from Abu Ojochide Precious. It says, such a great time listening to you, Dr. Sam, sir. Drawing from your vast experience with the civil society organization, what is the role of CSOs in this drive for energy transition? Fortunately, he might need to answer that when next we bring him on for part 2 of the show. Ijehon says, thank you so much, Doctor. And I got this one here from Cadence the Guru. It says, great content, Cadence the Guru. Yeah, it says great content. Thank you so much. Jetta says, my able ambassador Gabari, I don't think 1 hour is enough for our amiable Dr. Samu. Please add another 1 hour because no, we're bringing him for a part 2 that I know we will have to discuss this because there are so many other things we really didn't talk about that I know will bring him on. So many messages, but hey, this is all we can take for now. I think another one here. Great time with Dr. Sam, and thanks to Shagalinko. It's an impactful session, Jetta. Innocent from Kenya, a third time around says, thank you so much for the insight. Thank you, Innocent. It's good to know that you joined us all the way from Kenya. And our very, very regular viewer, Karim, all the way from Asia, precisely Philippine Island. Karim is one very, very fanatic viewer from Asia. Thank you so much for that. Well, we need to go now. I want to really thank Dr. Samuel Ogallah. He's a senior climate specialist for Africa, Solidaridad Network, Accra, Ghana. Thank you so much. In spite of your very busy schedule, you found time to join us today on the Saturday's episode of Shagalinko TV. I know we'll bring you back again, sir. So we'll find time within the month because we're still dedicating this month to renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy transition. We'll be doing a whole lot of these within the month. So we'll be bringing Dr. Sam again to talk with us on that. So thank you so much for finding time to join us. And thanks to everyone who joined, everyone who sent in messages, everyone who called between. Yes, to Mr. Ignatius Ibe from Oppo. Thank you for also joining us as the program was on. We truly appreciate your support and all that. This week's episode, or this episode, particularly this Saturday's episode, was proudly supported by ACTA and CSDevNet. Thank you all to everyone in CSDevNet and also to ACTA, everyone, colleagues, volunteers, everyone, YDAs, CRPs, everyone. We want to thank you all. Till I see you all on Tuesday for the Tuesday's edition. Like Jetta said, with Dr. Sam, you need to do a whole lot. I wish we had time to really even make it 1.5 hours. But then if we don't go off now, the network might just yank us off. So let's just respect ourselves and just beg Dr. Sam to come back, God willing, within the month to do a part 2. My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and I've had a very awesome time listening to Dr. Samuel Ogallah and his wise contributions. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who joined us. Till we see you all next week, Tuesday, for a fresh edition, fresh topic, fresh guest, and all that. This is urging you all to stay safe and have a beautiful, beautiful Saturday. Enjoy the weekend, but please stay safe, stay blessed, and stay out of trouble. God bless everyone. God bless the world. Bye-bye.